1. e4, Fischer opens with the king's pawn, immediately seeking a tactical and open game. Against a classical and logical player like Yue, Fischer wants to create complications from the start. 1. c6, Yue responds with the solid Caro-Kann defense. This is a testament to his style, aiming for a sound pawn structure to neutralize white's early initiative and outplay his opponent positionally. 2. d4, Fischer continues with the most popular and ambitious setup, establishing a strong pawn center and preparing for an open battle. 2. d5, the most principled reply. Yue immediately challenges white's central control, leading to a direct confrontation in the middle of the board. 3. exd5, Fischer chooses the exchange variation, but this will lead into the sharp Panna-Botvinnik attack rather than a quiet, symmetrical position. 3. cxd5, Yue recaptures, maintaining the balance in the center. The pawn structure is now set for a dynamic and complex middle game. 4. c4, the Panna-Botvinnik attack. Fischer deliberately takes the game into sharp, tactical waters, creating an isolated queen's pawn structure for black and aiming for a direct attack. 4. f6, Yue develops his knight to its most active square, putting pressure on white's center and preparing to challenge Fischer's attacking plans. 5. c3, Fischer develops his knight, reinforcing his control of the d4 square and preparing to complete his mobilization for the central fight. 5. c6, Yue continues with principled and active development, mirroring white's setup and creating maximum tension in the center of the board. 6. f3, Fischer develops his last minor knight, completing a formidable central setup. All of his pieces are now poised for a major confrontation. 6. bg4, a classic and powerful move. Yue pins the key f3 knight, which is a crucial defender of white's center. This move increases the tension and prepares to create weaknesses. 7. cxd5, the central tension is resolved. Fischer captures on d5, clarifying the pawn structure and initiating a sequence of tactical exchanges. 7. nxd5, Yue recaptures with the knight, which now becomes a strong piece in the center. The position is known to be very sharp and double-edged. 8. qb3, a critical and highly aggressive move from Fischer. He immediately puts pressure on the d5 knight and the weak b7 pawn, forcing Yue to make a difficult decision. 8. bxf3, the most common and best reply. Yue is forced to trade his strong bishop, but in doing so, he shatters white's kingside pawn structure, creating long-term weaknesses. 9. gxf3, Fischer accepts the damaged structure without a moment's hesitation. He believes that the open g-file for his rook and the intense activity of his pieces will be more than enough compensation. 9. e6, a solid defensive move. Yue defends the d5 knight and prepares to complete his development, hoping to weather the coming storm and exploit white's weaknesses later on. 10. qxb7, Fischer continues his aggressive plan and grabs the b-pawn. However, this allows Yue to unleash a powerful tactical countershot in the center. 10. nxd4, the tactical explosion. Yue's knight leaps into the heart of white's position, creating immediate and dangerous threats against the c2 pawn and the white king. 11. bb5+, Fischer's brilliant and prepared countershot. He ignores the threat to c2 and uses this intermediate check to force an exchange, pulling the black king out into the open. 11. nxb5, forced. Yue must trade knights, but this will tragically bring his king into a very dangerous and exposed position in the center. 12. qc6+, this is the entire point of Fischer's combination. This powerful check forces the black king itself to move, as the queen cannot interpose. The king is now a target. 12. c7, the king is dragged into the center of the board. While it looks terrifying for black, his pieces are active, and the position is still a chaotic fight. 13. qxb5, Fischer recaptures the piece and now attacks the knight on c3. The tactical storm continues unabated, with both sides creating threats. 13. nxc3, Yue is forced to exchange knights. This simplifies the position slightly but does not solve the fundamental problem of his horribly exposed king. 14. bxc3, Fischer recaptures, leaving him with ugly doubled and isolated c-pawns. However, his pieces are incredibly active, and the b-file is now open for his rook. 14. QD7, an excellent move by Yue. He challenges white's queen and prepares to trade it, correctly judging that simplifying the game will ease the immense pressure on his king. 15. RB1, Fischer activates his rook with tempo before the queens are traded. The rook on the open b-file will be a major long-term asset in the coming endgame. 15. RD8, Yue brings his rook to the central file, preparing for the endgame and keeping a watchful eye on the white king's position. 16. B3, a calm and useful developing move. Fischer prepares to connect his rooks and improve his king's position before continuing his strategic plan. 16. QXB5, the queens are finally exchanged. The game now transitions into a fascinating and complex endgame, where Fischer's active pieces battle against Yue's exposed king. 17. RXB5, the rook lands on a powerful square on the 5th rank, putting pressure on black's position and dominating the crucial b-file. This is the key piece for white. 17. RD7, the rook takes on a defensive role, blockading the 7th rank and preparing to challenge white's control of the open files. 18. Q2, the rook's pawn-king march. Fischer brings his king towards the center, a classic endgame technique to improve its safety and make it an active fighting piece. 18. F6, a necessary move to create an escaped square for the black king and to challenge white's control of the important e5 square. 19. RD1, Fischer seizes the open d-file, putting more pressure on black's position and preparing to invade with his second rook. The pressure mounts. 19. RxD1, Yue is forced to trade rooks to relieve some of the immediate pressure, but this allows Fischer's king to become even more active. 20. KXD1, the king recaptures and is now a powerful, centralized piece. It will play a key role in the next phase of the game, a testament to Fischer's deep understanding. 20. KD7, Yue's king also becomes active. The endgame is now a battle of the kings, with both monarchs trying to dominate the center of the board. 21. RB8, the white rook invades the back rank, creating new and annoying threats and tying down black's pieces to passive and uncomfortable defense. 21. KC6, the king is forced to move to the side, but it also eyes the queenside pawns, desperately looking for any form of counterplay. 22. Bexa7, Fischer wins a pawn. He is now beginning to convert his significant positional advantage into a decisive material one. The endgame looks very promising for him. 22. G5, Yue creates loft, breathing room, for his king and prepares to activate his fianchettoed bishop, which is his last remaining hope for creating counterplay. 23. F4, the passed pawn is born. This a-pawn will become the star of the show and the decisive factor in the game, a testament to Fischer's long-term strategy. 23. BG7, the bishop is finally developed, but it is too little, too late. The passed a-pawn is too strong, and white's pieces are far too active. 24. RB6+, the rook relentlessly harasses the black king, driving it back and creating new weaknesses in the position. The pressure is unbearable. 25. RB7, the rook switches its point of attack, now targeting the newly developed bishop and further restricting black's defensive options. 25. BF8, the bishop is forced to retreat to a passive square. Black is now completely on the defensive, with no active plan. 26. RB8, the rook returns, continuing to tie down the black king and bishop. This dance is a display of technical mastery from Fischer. 26. BG7, the bishop is forced back to its original square. Black is being toyed with, unable to break free from the grip of white's dominant rook. 27. RB5+, another check, forcing the king to move and preventing black from consolidating. Fischer is playing with ruthless precision. 27. KC6, the king is driven back once again. The position is completely hopeless, but Yue plays on, hoping for a mistake. 28. RB6+, the rook returns, repeating the theme of harassment. Fischer is patiently improving his position before pushing for the win. 28. KD5, the king tries to find a more active square, but it is a futile gesture. The passed a-pawn is the real threat. 29, a5, the pawn marches forward. It is now a serious and immediate threat, and black is forced to react to it. 29, f5, a desperate attempt to create some counterplay on the king side, but it is far too slow. The game will be decided on the queen side. 30, bb8, a brilliant move. Fischer prepares to escort the passed pawn home with his bishop, creating new and decisive threats. 30, rc8, the rook tries to create some counterplay, but it is a hopeless task. The passed a-pawn is unstoppable. 31, a6, the pawn advances again. It is now only 2 squares away from queening, and there is nothing that black can do to stop it. 31, rxc3, a final, desperate attempt to create some chaos, but it is a futile gesture. The game is over, and these are just the last gasps. 32, rb5 plus, a precise check, driving the king to a worse square and preparing the final combination. Fischer's technique is flawless. 32, kc4, the king is driven further into the mating net. The position is completely hopeless, and the end is near. 33, rb7, the rook returns to its dominant post, from where it will deliver the final, decisive blow. The position is completely winning. 33, bd4, the bishop creates a final, desperate threat, but it is a futile gesture. The game is over, and this is simply the last gasp. 34, rc7 plus, another precise check. Fischer is not rushing, but is executing the win with ruthless efficiency and clarity. 34, kd3, the king is driven further into the open. The position is completely lost, and the end is near. 35, rxc3 plus, Fischer simplifies into a winning endgame. By trading rooks, he removes any last vestiges of counterplay and clarifies his path to victory. 35, kxc3, Yue recaptures, but the resulting position is trivially winning for white. The passed a-pawn is gone, but the black king is hopelessly exposed. 36, b5, the final, beautiful blow. This elegant bishop move creates an unbreakable pin on the black bishop. Black cannot avoid losing decisive material or allowing the a-pawn to queen, so he resigns. 1-0. 1-0 Black resigns.